I used to have so much anxiety and would have panic attacks, and I had no idea that I could use my breath to help
Right.
to calm my nervous system down.
Oh, like you cannot be seen to the fullness of your depths if you've not seen yourself. You cannot experience that deep, deep intimacy if you don't have the muscle of intimacy with self.
Would you rather have the challenge of going through life feeling disconnected from yourself, feeling lost, feeling confused? Or would you rather have the experience of going deep and learning how to feel it all so that you can clear it and that you can get to the other side?
All of this work is that muscle. It's really flexing that muscle of like the deepest intimacy and union and care and love with self.
Hi.
Nice to actually meet you.
So good to meet you. Yeah, such a pleasure to meet you. And one of the reasons why I was really excited to have you on is because I know that embodiment and somatics are kind of big buzzwords lately.
Mm.
And, I've been teaching embodiment for 3 or 4 years now. And what I see in you is a very skilled embodiment practitioner.
Mm.
And I love watching your movement and your expression. And I can tell, like,
Mm.
because of the depths that you've gone in with yourself, that you're
Mm.
able to hold that and guide other women to that. So there's a lot of overlap in our work, and yet there's a unique way that you bring your
Mm.
magic. And so today we get
Mm.
to explore that and be in a conversation that I think is so, so needed at this time
Mm.
for women who want to make big changes in their life, who are on this path of, following their purpose or growing businesses. And there's this calling that so many of us are having
Mm.
of, okay, I want to soften into my feminine. I want to connect with my feminine power. I want to be connected with my body, with who I truly am. So that's really where we're gonna go today and
Mm.
see where the magic wants to flow. Yeah.
So beautiful. Firstly, thank you so much for modeling such beautiful generosity and what you just shared. That's really sweet and beautiful. And I think also just a lovely example of seeing women that are in similar spaces, but also recognizing the abundance and the difference and the ways we all weave our own individual value. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm here for it.
Totally. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
excited to dive in. So juicy, all of it.
Yeah. So something that really stood out, which I think is maybe a newer venture co-creation collaboration,
Mm.
is the Muse. And I know that for me, the Muse has really been speaking to me as an archetype. So I'm personally excited to learn from you and
Mm.
also to invite our listeners into maybe the archetype or the essence of the Muse and
Mm.
how they can start to bring that online for themselves. So, why don't we just start with who is the muse
Yeah.
and really how can women start to tap into that?
Yeah, perfect question. And, the muse in our landscape, so obviously that's my business with my business partner, Alexi Panos, and that business or mission, really, it's so much more than a business, right? The thread of the muse in our lives that then co-created this mission. It's really about, it came from this question we asked ourselves of like, what would it look like to be the muse of our own life, right? And really internalizing that drive, that alignment, that truth, because as women, we're so accustomed to, who do I need to be for the world, for my relationship, for you? What do I need to look like? And there's so much external metric that we're so used to, running this race of, who do I need to be safe in the world? And really reclaiming this conversation of becoming like, okay, if you were the muse of your own life, what would that look like? Like, how would you move? What would you move towards? How would you be? What would feel important to you? And so it's really a reclamation. And, one really big thing is that it's not prescriptive, right? Like to be your own muse and to start to embody, the muse archetype or just really your own muse is going to look 8 billion ways, right? Or however the woman that's sitting in front of you looks, it's going to look different for her. So it's really about being in this exploration. It takes a lot of radical courage, really, to go, okay, like if I really stripped back all of the conditioning of who I thought I was supposed to be, right? And really gave myself the permission to lean into who I desire to be and what is starting to show up in my world, what is starting to excite me and inspire me. And I gave myself permission to move towards that. Like, what would that look like? Who would that be? And, it's really a dance that just the more you go into it, and I'm sure you know this with your work too, just the more you go in, the more that reveals. The more that you go in, the more that reveals. So it's this never ending curiosity and deep connection with ourself of who am I in this moment and what do I desire in this moment and how would this woman move in this moment. And if you really, we also kind of extrapolate it out a little bit to go, you can be your own muse. And then when you start to really deepen into this work, you start to kind of explore like, what would it look like if I was life's muse? And you actually start to be able to tap into this whole other energy of like, oh, so if I was the muse of life, like, wow, how supported would I feel? How abundant would I feel? How alive would I feel to feel like I was in this like deep union and co-creation as life's muse as well. So
Mm.
it's a really deep and juicy journey. And again, it's the big piece is that it's not prescriptive. It's really allowing women to start to be in that inquiry and to start to follow the little nudges, the little desires, the little pieces of pleasure that are opening up to them. That's really the pathway to start really anchoring into your own muse.
Hmm.
Mm,
Yeah, and even as we start to unpack the muse, like for women maybe who are new to this concept of the muse,
yeah.
would you say that the muse is more of like the essence and the energy of inspiration? Is it being
Mm,
like the artist of your life? Like tell me a little bit more if we were
yeah.
to bring it even to the foundation of like the muse. What is
Yeah.
that? Who is that?
Yeah. Well, and again, it's really about being a sovereign and aligned woman. So most of the women that are coming to our work are earlier on in this journey, right? They're looking around their lives and thinking, I thought it was going to feel different to this. I've ticked all the boxes. Why do I still feel dissatisfied or frustrated? Why am I always anxious, burnt out, overwhelmed? Like, truthfully, those are the symptoms of the awakening into the muse. And so the first step is really starting to acknowledge those pieces and start to go like, there's really got to be something else. Like, and I think that that's the awakening that so many of, your clients, the women that we work with are coming to in the world of like, this is supposed to feel different. And then from that place, firstly just realizing, okay, it is supposed to feel different and I'm willing to go and do the work to find how that gets to be different. Because
Mm-hmm.
to truly embody life in a different way, it does require us to do things differently and to have the courage to face off with all the reasons that we've told ourselves, we can't have what we want or we need to be a type of way, and really melt through a lot of the conditioning. And that's, why we work with our clients in this way to support them in that process.
Mm-hmm.
But the first piece generally is really that is like, what the hell? How did I get here? And how do I get out of this place that I'm in? Knowing like it's that whisper of like, there's got to be something more. That's
Yeah.
really that first ding,
Yes.
ding, ding.
Yeah, and that more is that invitation to get curious,
Yeah,
right? To be like, "Ooh, what does that more look like for me?"
for you.
Right?
That's the big
Because there
piece.
is the societal view of what does success mean,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
then once you've either achieved that success or you've been striving for that success and then you realize, "Oh, I'm actually not feeling successful internally. I still feel unhappy. I feel unfulfilled.
Yeah.
I don't actually feel successful, even if my life looks successful,"
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a disconnect in that.
Yeah.
Then we start to get those questions of, okay, like what would success look like for me? What would it feel like for me? And I get
Yeah.
to create that and design that, which is where we really take our power back
Mm-hmm.
and get to step into this muse archetype, which I
Yeah.
love. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the big piece there too, is what you said, is like really being able to feel it. And this is the big invitation for a woman, again, like that we work with, to really like the homecoming back into our bodies, right? Because for just so long we've kind of whoop, gone back up like out of these bodies. And for me, I had dysfunctional relationship with food and eating for like most of my life. So I was like living from completely disembodied, but also like all of our emotions, grief, trauma, all of the experiences of life kind of drive us up out of here because it's a lot. Like, let's just be real. It's a lot to really come back into our bodies. But that is where the felt experience, that sustainable felt experience of success, of worthiness, of really feeling the experience of your life lives. But the trick is, and why, it takes the courage to kind of go there, is that, we have to wade through a lot of stuff that's sitting on top of a lot of how women are wanting to feel, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
society, we're chasing these externalized markers to feel something. But we get there and then we don't feel it. But that's because we're not actually capable, for a lot of us, unless we grew up in really great households or have a lot of emotional intelligence and have done a lot of work, to really know how to really hold ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're subconsciously seeking to be held by all of these, by our bodies looking a certain way, by the achievements, right? That's what we're chasing to find, oh, I'm safe, whew, I'm held. And it's
Mm-hmm.
only when we come in here and really create that sustainable skill that we will feel that what we're wanting to feel. But it also means that we have to, there's some discomfort in here too.
Yeah,
So it is courageous.
there's so much there that I want to unpack. I
Mm.
first want to start with this piece around like that it makes sense why people leave their
Oh,
bodies.
yeah.
It makes sense why people numb out, avoid,
Mm-hmm.
distract, because, like you said, oftentimes there's a lot of repressed feeling, a lot of repressed emotion, repressed trauma that kind of has built up over time.
Mm.
And so we have to get through that before, like you said, we can start to feel more pleasure,
Yeah.
more ease, more bliss, more joy. And I think this is a very courageous path.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's either like, would you rather have the challenge of going through life feeling disconnected from yourself,
Mm.
feeling lost, feeling confused? That's hard in itself. It's a different kind of hard,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where you're avoiding, distracting, numbing because you don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Or would you rather have the experience of going deep and learning how to feel it all so that you can clear it and that you can get to the other side? And when I say clear it, it's like it's not like
Mm.
a one and done
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? It's a process. But
Yeah.
once we clear some of those really initial deep layers that are, that haven't been cleared, women are like, oh my God, I feel so alive.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so connected to myself. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm coming home to
Mm-hmm.
myself, which is
Yeah.
what I often hear after, embodiment and somatic
Yeah.
practices with my clients is like, oh, I feel like I can actually feel myself in my body, which
Mm-hmm.
is a felt sense. It's kind of hard to explain in
Yeah.
words, but
Mm-hmm.
it is that homecoming and often the feeling of peace.
Yeah.
Like I'm not at war with myself. I'm not trying to run right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something else that you shared, and this is something that I really wanted to dive into today, is around creating inner safety.
Mm-hmm.
And that this is not a skill that we have learned how to create. We're
Mm-hmm.
often outsourcing our safety. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about what
Mm.
does that even mean to
Yeah.
insource your safety,
Mm.
and how can women start to really feel that sense of safety and sovereignty in their bodies?
Yeah, totally. I want to share maybe even just a little bit of my story of how I was doing it, because I think, again, when we're in this world of the embodiment and nervous system and somatics and safety, like they're flying around everywhere, right? And it's like it can be so insidious that you can sometimes not even see the ways that you're actually, placing your safety outside of yourself, again, because we're conditioned that it's very normal to seek the achievements, to build the businesses, to do all these things. It's very validated by society. And so, that was my journey with like really thinking that the way that my body looked was the way that I would be safe, that building my business, proving, the TED Talks, the multiple, events globally, like that whole thing, this chase was where I was getting my safety. But at the time I had no idea, like it was entirely subconscious that that was what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that was what the way that my nervous system was so wired, and that's what felt like true. If I just, one more launch, one more, piece of media, one more, kg lost, whatever it is, or pound, right, if we're in
Mm-hmm.
the US. And so even today I'm still peeling away the insidious places like, oh, look at that. I'm putting my sense of okayness, the place where I breathe out, the place where I feel like I'm going to be okay in this other little thing. And they start kind of getting more sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
So really just, in our program, we call this like your nervous system hooks. Like where are the habitual places that you're currently maybe starting to be aware that you place a lot of your sense of okay. And so that could be for a lot of women listening to this if they have businesses, like, one more launch, more Instagram followers, like really noticing where that kind of chase is. Like, where does your activation come from? Again, mine was feeling chosen and worthy by men. So there was this whole story of like, I've got to change how I look. So really starting to look in your life, like where are the main places that you're currently, a lot of your energy gets hooked on. And there's, the goalpost is constantly moving. Like that's a really good clue of like, where in your life are the main places that you always move the goalpost and you say, when I get there, then I'll, whatever, experience everything you want to experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because we first really need to understand that because we need to see where we're getting hooked and what we're making God in our life versus really knowing that we are the only place that we can sustainably land. And it's really that feeling. It's like, like where do you tell yourself when you get there, you'll, you know, do some embodiment practice or prioritize pleasure or like spend time with your friends, right? It's always over there, somewhere over
Mm-hmm.
there. And so really starting to, again, first see that so you can go, whoa, I'm noticing that I'm hooking that out. Because when you become aware of the pattern, you can start to see that you've never actually allowed yourself, once you get there, sustainable sense of what you're looking for. So it's like, all right, first realize that. So then you go, okay, so I realize then I have to start doing this within. And then that's really a process and a journey and a practice. Because it's, again, like you said, it's not one and done. This is embodiment work, somatic work, nervous system work. Really being an embodied woman is a practice. It's something that we have to prioritize. It's something that we get knocked off center. It's like we have to have tools, resources, etc., and prioritize that as a practice. That's really, really important. My clients hate when I say the word practice because I'm like, have you been practicing? Right? And so it's really finding, and this is a piece of course, you can work with people like us in our programs, and we have ways of really supporting you into building your own practice. But it could be as simple as, before we started this podcast, it's like we just dropped into a few breaths, we landed, we unhooked our energy, we became present in this moment, like little things like this, but like consistently. How are you bringing your anchor back into your own body?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the more and more you go on this journey, like there's a lot of tools, often you have to really work through a lot of the nervous system dysregulation that's habitual. Like we've habituated into these patterns of anxiety, of stress, of closure, inner child work, stuff we have to actually move through. Like we do have to move through that because a lot of the time, a lot of that lack of safety is coming from something historical, and we have to really tend to that, right? And then have emotional and embodiment hygiene so that we're staying on top of it. So that's obviously a big answer, but it is really such a deep and beautiful practice. Really first being aware that that's what you're doing and going, okay, I'm willing to take this journey. And that's why we say it's courageous, because to stop scrolling Instagram, to stop buying clothes online, to stop doing the habituated thing you do when you get into dysregulation,
Mm-hmm.
and be willing to just take some breaths and be with yourself. Like that is as simple as how it could start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get so lit up and my brain's like really happy right now. I'm like, oh, I love this stuff. I
I
love getting
know.
into the nuances, and
Hmm.
there is like a marriage of these different modalities that gets to happen.
Yeah.
We're talking about first even tapping into pranayama, which is
Hmm.
like, breath work, and really learning how to use the breath to help us to calm our
Yeah.
nervous systems down. We're talking about awareness of being able to track, when am I feeling dysregulated.
Hmm.
It's really noticing those subtle cues and getting
Yeah.
to know, okay, what are the actions that I take when I'm dysregulated? What are the thoughts that I have when I'm
Hmm.
dysregulated? And I even think like the basic of the breath, it's like I used to have so much anxiety and would have panic attacks, and I had no
Yeah.
idea that I could use my breath to help
Right.
to calm my nervous system down.
Hmm.
And instead, I obviously went to my therapist and my doctor and got
Yeah.
medication. And so I
Mm.
started numbing that
Yeah.
feeling instead of knowing how to self regulate.
Hmm.
And the fact that we have the power of the breath, but like you said, it's a practice. We have to learn how to use it, we have
Hmm.
to access it. And it does take practice before that becomes almost habitual,
Yeah.
a new habit, right?
Mhm.
And then we talked about the layers of really looking at your inner child and being with your inner child, which is
Mhm.
the reason, like you said, why you probably don't feel safe in the first place,
Mhm.
because at some point in your past you had experiences where
Yeah.
you did have to outsource your validation in order to be
Mhm.
safe, or you did have to
It's your
outsource
safety in general.
your safety
Yeah.
in general. Yeah. And so, yeah, I love, there's so many different layers. And
Mhm.
for every woman, it's a different piece. There's something different that
For
works
sure.
well for them.
Yeah.
Right. Like I love that we can weave these together. And I think what happens for a lot of women is they're like, oh, well, I've been doing a lot of personal development work, but I still feel stuck.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
they understand this stuff conceptually
Mhm.
because they are listening to podcasts like this one, or they've
Mhm.
read books, or they're looking stuff up online, and they're like, oh, this is what this
Mhm.
means,
Yeah.
and they are intellectualizing it, and so they
Mhm.
know their patterns
Yeah.
and they see themselves doing it. And I feel like that part of the journey is probably one of the most frustrating parts. It's
Mhm.
like, at least when you're not self-aware, you're like, oh, this sucks, but like
Yeah.
it's not really
This is just how
me,
it
it's just
is.
how it is,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I just feel like shit, but I don't know why. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's me. Like, I keep doing these patterns. And once you start to become aware of that, but you haven't
Mhm.
gotten to the point where you've shifted it and then you've
Yeah.
become a new embodiment of yourself, that area I feel
Mm.
like is where a lot of women who are listening to this podcast are at. They're like,
Yeah.
I know that there's a different way of being. So let's
Mhm.
talk about that,
Mm.
the difference between intellectually knowing and
Mm.
actually feeling
Yeah.
and doing the deeper work.
Yeah, it's such a good question
Yeah.
because, this was myself and my business partner, right? Like, she's been in the personal development field, teaching, leading, guiding, facilitating for 20 years, me like 13 plus years right before we came to this work. And in the work, like active deep practice for ourselves and also teaching and coaching, right? And doing all the work, ticking all the boxes. And so yeah, the gap between knowing and embodying is actually huge. And it's really where the game changes entirely. And like you can't have the embodiment without the awareness, right? So I mean you can go to there first, but the awareness does definitely help. So it's not like this is not helpful. But it is, like you said, frustrating to be like, wait, I know, but I can't do. Like, why in this moment do I still get so reactive or shut down or defensive or still scroll or whatever it is? The capacity to actually choose something different, the capacity to embody something different is everything. So, I even used to do inner child work, but I was doing it very conceptually, intellectually. I wasn't actually feeling, I used to be the person that, when we ask clients now I'm the person that asks people, like, where do you feel that in your body? And I would want to punch someone in the face because I was like, what are you talking about? Like, where am I feeling what in my body? Like, I just had no somatic
Mhm.
connection. And so it really is through, again, everybody's favorite word out of my mouth, the practice, but really, really, and you can just slowly titrate. Because again, when our nervous system, and then you said something before too that I think is just really important for everyone to remember, like all of our patterns make sense. Every way that you show up, everything that you choose, it all makes sense. Like if we sat down and asked you enough questions and saw your history, it would make entirely sense why you act the way you do. And so we need to habitually repattern our nervous system, which we do through the tools, through embodiment work, through really this beautiful practice, through breath work, through anything really that not just gets us in our body, but also stretches us out of where we've habitually patterned. Like I'll use myself as an example. I used to have a lot of shutdown around like being seen, like in my body. I wouldn't have been able to I just would have had a more constricted energy. Like there's a lot of self-judgment. There was a lot of story around my body. I didn't feel sexy, pieces like that. Whereas now I could, if you wanted me to, I mean, you can look at my Instagram, you probably see, I could get up in front of a room and move in front of you if that's what was required because I've created that expansion in my nervous system.
Mhm.
So the habituated places that essentially keep us stuck in our patterns there's closure around them because there's like sensitivity, there's tightness. The
It's like a
nervous system,
protection.
it's
Mhm.
protecting something that like it's working for you. You think your nervous system thinks it's doing you a favor to get reactive, to do whatever the pattern is.
Mhm.
And so we have to habitually go in and over time sit with that feeling. So the more space we can make in between okay, I'm still aware I'm doing this thing. Like, get aware, like, what is the thing that you're doing? What is the situation that's triggering you? And then, what is that feeling? And as best as we can in those moments over time, like, really, like, going into that feeling, like, oh, wow, I can feel that I want to close because I have the story that, um, to use my voice is going to lose love, right? And so go, oh my God, like, wow, babe, like there's tenderness there, there's emotion there, there's sensitivity there. We have to go in and really heal and feel what is creating that contraction. And then over time, continue to expose ourselves to that same situation. The more space we continue to make within our system, the more over time, and again, that's why when we're continuously practicing, when we're clearing out and we're embodying more of ourself, then we're bringing more of that full self to those situations. Because if we don't have a practice, then we're just rolling through in this way, and then there's no regulation, we haven't landed in our body, there's all of this intensity from the day, and then we try to have an intense conversation with a partner, and then we blow up when they say something. It's like,
Hmm.
well, of course, like, have you checked in with yourself? Did you clear from the meeting earlier? Like, did you get ready for the fact that that might be a sensitive moment? So you tended to yourself first and then you entered into the conversation. Like, all of these sort of self responsibility things that we get to
Mm.
do over time create us to be able to really truly shift within our bodies and our nervous system.
Yeah.
That's a really long answer.
I love it though, because I feel like, even women who have been disconnected from their bodies and women who are listening right now is like, oh, I don't actually feel much. Well,
Yeah.
that in itself, numbness is a
Uh-huh. It
sensation.
is. Yeah.
And the problem is when we're judging that numbness and, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I am not actually feeling anything. That means you're actually in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So can we be with that numbness? Can
Yeah.
we be with that feeling of being disconnected without having to have a story around it?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most powerful ways that we can do that is through breath and through movement.
Yeah.
And I do really find that movement helps to get us out of the mind, go beyond
Mm-hmm.
the mind. Breath also helps to get us out of the
Mm-hmm.
mind, which is
Yeah.
again the habitual place. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that, some women are wanting to go there, like they want to connect with their sensuality.
Yeah.
They want to drop in and feel more connected and feel more soft, but there's
Yeah.
there's fear around that. There's
Mm-hmm.
fear around tapping into that, whether it's their erotic essence
Yeah.
or into actually feeling pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to hear your perspective, for a woman who maybe is afraid to go there but really wants to go there. Like what
Yeah.
might you share with her?
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, this work can be a lot as well. I mean, the sharing just kind of about me being able to move in front of a room, like we joke with my clients and stuff now because 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was about 3 years ago, there was a class that we were in where it was like the next piece was to like move in front of the room. And I was like, my whole system was like, "Ugh," and I was like, wait, what? And I literally left that class without doing it because I was like, hell no, like that's really confronting. There's like journeys and being so gentle. One of the biggest things that, we always share with clients is that there's no place over there that we're trying to get to because a lot of women, can come into this work trying to find an outcome, right? It's like, okay, what's the outcome of this? What's the outcome of my pleasure? Like, where am I getting to? Okay, I want to have an orgasm or I want to feel more in my body. And then like, what's the point? And there's a lot of that energy that can come to it. And I think that stops a lot of women from even starting to try because we live in a society that hasn't prioritized essentially the feminine in general, right? Because it doesn't produce, even though you and I know it does, but it's not as obvious. And so, the more sort of hyper masculine kind of outputs are more valued. So things like pleasure, things like feeling into a body for a lot of women coming into this space doesn't feel valuable.
Mhm.
And so first and foremost, really knowing that this isn't a journey that we're trying to get to an end point for. Like this isn't just about orgasms or, becoming a tantrika or like whatever, right? Because I think there's a lot of danger with this now in this feminine world where it's like, oh, I need to look like that sexual priestess or this, sensual slithering woman. I'm not that. And it's like really about reclaiming just more joy, more connection to your body, more like, and I think sometimes even the word pleasure can feel like a lot for women, right? It's like Could there be a part of your day where you felt the breeze on your face and that felt good? Like, is there a part of your day where you like had a beautiful, coffee and you just had a moment where you were like, ah, like that's pleasure, that's
Mhm.
aliveness, that's spaciousness. Like, can we start to invite more of that into your day to day? Experience, because that also starts to train the muscle, and it also lessens the pressure of like, "Oh, I'm gonna, take my yoni egg and my wands and put 45 minutes and, have an orgasm on the floor." It's like people are like, A, people don't have time or the energy, or then they feel like they're failing if it doesn't work. But it's like, this is not the point. It's like we're really cultivating a new way of being. How can we just open into allowing a little more access to like, oh, that felt nice. Like, oh, wow, look at like that moment that I'm having. And that is a really, I think, beautiful entry point. And then the more and more that we do that, the more access, like again, the more we practice, the easier it is to actually, oh, I can actually get into turn on and eros faster because I have a practice of it. There's access in my body. But
Mhm.
for starting, I think really even just inviting pieces like that in. And then if you feel like laying down and putting some lingerie on and like slowly exploring your body, do that too. But because that feels like something that feels like it might feel nourishing for you, not because
Mhm.
you're trying to tick a box or like get to a destination.
Yeah, which is so just like the masculine way of
Yeah.
like applying what you're already doing to like, oh, I need to have an endpoint, I need to have a goal. And
Yeah.
that can be really hard for women to be like, okay, then why am I doing this in the first
Yeah.
place? But
Hmm.
underneath that, there's a reason why women are listening to this podcast.
For
There's a
sure.
reason why women are like, I don't want to feel burnt out
Hmm.
anymore, or something needs to change, or
Yeah.
there's more available for
Hmm.
me. And this is the pathway. This is the
Hmm.
pathway to that feeling that you want to be having, to that state, that essence that you want to be in,
Hmm.
which is very different than the check the box, do it perfectly, make it look this way. Like,
Yeah.
and that's also very much our ego. Our
Hmm.
ego wants to have, like, okay, where is this going?
Hmm.
What is this supposed to look like? It
Yeah.
likes to have these details so that it
Hmm.
feels safe
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And that's why I do feel like doing this work with mentors, guides, in communities with women where that container is actually set for you.
Yeah.
You're being guided. You
Hmm.
don't have to know where you're going
Hmm.
because we know where we got you,
Yeah.
and there's going to be opportunity to explore that in a way that feels supportive, that feels nourishing. And we were talking a lot about nervous system capacity. It's like, okay, the point isn't to like go to the point where you end up closing and
Exactly.
blasting
Yeah.
past it.
Mm.
There is this, it's a slower process.
Mhm.
And like you said, there's layers. And I just taught a 3-day masterclass all around. It was called The Pleasure Queen.
Yeah.
And it was about changing our relationship and our perception to what does pleasure mean,
Yeah.
right? To me,
Mhm.
pleasure is the art of feeling good.
Mhm.
It's the art of making decisions that feel right for you, that feel true for you,
Yeah.
right? And pleasure is really this invitation going from what looks good to actually what feels good.
Mhm.
And when we can take the stigma and the taboo and like all of the fears around like, oh, like pleasures for those women, but it's not for me, or this
Mhm.
thing happened in my past and so I can't access that. But we just take that away and we simplify it, like you
Mhm.
said, where it
Mhm.
is about, oh, like being in the moment and
Mhm.
feeling the sensation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that in itself is a process. And then I love what you've been talking about throughout this conversation. You referenced a couple of times like the willingness to be seen, right?
Mhm.
And
Mm.
especially in our sensuality, in our power, in our movement,
Mm.
there's a lot for women around, like, even just, I would say, biologically, of like safety, like, ooh, if I let people see me in
Mhm.
the sensuality, is it safe for
Mm.
that? Right? Am I going to have people who are, wanting my energy?
Mm.
Or it can get kind of weird. But for me, in order for me to be able to be seen by other people, I had to first be able to feel myself, to
Mm.
see myself, to be
Mhm.
with myself. And it
Mm.
starts there. It's like being seen by other people is like the deep end.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool, we'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
You want deeper intimacy, you want to be seen by other people, you want to be your authentic self out in the world. Yeah, that's further down the road. But
Mm-hmm.
first, like, let's be with and let's see and be with the emotions, with the sensations that come up
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've seen maybe like a reel or a post of yours that talks about that, of like intimacy starts with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, is there anything that you wanted to add there?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's just such a beautiful point because I think it's, one of the biggest things in the work that we do and I do is really around and again, which is why it's courageous, is because you have to you have to realize like, okay, so actually the reason that I'm not experiencing basically most of what I want, there's obviously nuances and caveats, but most of what I want, the reason why I'm not experiencing it is because of this, right? Like women yearn to be met by men, like where are all the good men and, emotionally unavailable men, all of this. It's a really convenient narrative. But, for me, I had to realize the reason why I wasn't able to be met was because I would constantly choose unavailable people because that kept me safe, because that's what my pattern was for love. And also because intimacy is scary. Can we
Mm-hmm.
just be like, honest that intimacy is really scary, to be seen fully in your wholeness and your fullness and your rawness. And so a lot of that gets hidden. And there's a lot of people in relationships that lack any real true intimacy because the intimacy with self has not been cultivated. So it's the same thing with how we work with clients. You can only take a client as deep as you have gone with yourself. Otherwise, you cannot hold what they're bringing because there's no capacity within yourself. And so the same is true in the world. Like you cannot be seen to the fullness of your depths if you've not seen yourself. You cannot experience that deep, deep intimacy if you don't have the muscle of intimacy with self. And so all of this work is that muscle. It's really flexing that muscle of like the deepest intimacy and union and care and love with self. Like whatever presents, I know I can hold it. I can be intimate with it. I can love it. And like, sure, some days that's harder than others, right? Let's be real. But that I know that I have that muscle and that practice. And so there's already that sense of being seen in the most intimate parts. And there's safety with that. And because that also takes the charge away, because so much of what keeps us from really experiencing the intimacy we yearn for is because we have these outlawed parts and these shamed parts that we think, oh, I can't show that because like I'll lose love or I'll be judged or it's wrong because we've made it wrong, right? Neediness, like anger, unhinged, like all of these, like, spectrum of emotions that we've outlawed. But then we want to be seen in our fullness, but we're not even really bringing our fullness. And one of the biggest things that we see in our workshops and with clients is there's this moment where a woman will be, fully expressing something that, outside of these rooms would be like, whoa, full rage or primal or, just sadness, whatever. And there's this moment where she's like, like there's almost like this apology of like, oh, this isn't welcome here. And the
Mm.
entire room will feed back how welcome it is. Like, that's what we wanted to see from you. And that's what the world wants. It's like these parts of us that we're pushing away, that's keeping the intimacy and the connection and our full expression away because that's real, right? And we're just tucking it away. And so the more and more that we can bring all of that online, we make it safe, we make it home. And then when I'm interfacing with you, I'm not internally judging these parts of myself. So they're okay to be seen and they're
Mm.
welcome and they're beautiful. And then if therefore I want to share them with you and
Mm.
you can like, I feel safe. And also the piece here as well is that my reliance on it being okay isn't how you receive it.
Mm.
Because it's like if we share and it's like if I share this piece and they don't accept it, I'm not going to be okay. And so
Mhm.
when we have that intimacy with self and we like are a home for ourselves, I can share it with you, and if you can't hold it, I'm still okay.
Mm.
But a lot of the intimacy in relating is very like it's got to be okay with you, otherwise we're going to have a problem.
Yeah, which
You know?
is ultimately like the
Totally,
codependence,
yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
outsourcing, yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I'll be safe if you accept this part of me,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the intimacy that we really, really yearn for first has to come with intimacy with self.
Mm. Yes, I'm
Mhm. Yeah,
so
but we have
here
to
for
work a little
this.
harder for that, right?
Yeah.
It's easier if I just go, "Oh, okay, can I just give it to you?"
Yeah.
And hope that you'll fix it or hold it. And it's like to take that risk. That's why we say it's courageous, and it takes that extra gear, but it pays off in dividends.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I want to land this
Yeah.
conversation, is even maybe for each of us to just share about, through embodiment work, what has opened up for you in your
Mm,
life? And we can talk about maybe it's business, friendships,
mm,
relationships, how you feel within yourself, because this, to me, this is the work that truly was the game changer for me.
mhm,
And
mhm,
that truly helped me to go from feeling stuck, getting in my own way,
mhm.
not being who I came here to be, like really playing
Yeah,
small.
yeah.
And this was the work that changed everything for
Mhm,
me. So
mhm.
what do you feel has shifted for you as
Yeah.
you've become an embodied woman?
Same, everything. I mean, there's life before embodiment and life after it, literally. And it's
Mhm.
not just, that's why I, want to make this point clear. It's not just like, cool, now I can move in front of a room or I can, access pleasure, but it's like really living like in your body, being able to hold yourself, being able to trust your intuition, being able to hold yourself when life, is crazy, like really having this deep anchor. It's like, steeping, like that's my word for this year. It's just like feeling steeped like in yourself, in life. Like there's just a entirely different context of living that, yeah, I mean, because you change the center of everything, everything in your life does shift, right? Like the way you
Mhm.
interface with everything. So it's just about so much more than, the movement, but really like becoming an embodied woman. It's like you're just this anchored, woman that can hold herself and hold life. And then, of course, you can hold more because your capacity is expanded. And you also, what you can feel and what you can experience just amplifies because it's like eating a bunch of fast food, right? Like, like you probably need more to get satiated versus like eating a really rich, nourishing meal. Like you can walk outside and feel like, oof, satiated by life because you're so attuned and in your body of like, whoa,
Mm.
So it's like it changes everything.
Yeah, I would say life is more delicious.
Yeah.
It's more delicious, and it's also just there's so much more depth and feeling in all of it. It's
Hmm.
like it is the full spectrum of aliveness, and one of the things like my clients describe it every time I read a testimonial, it's like life changing,
Hmm.
right? And it's not because it changed one area of their life. Like
Yeah.
you go to a business coach, maybe you
Yeah.
learn how to make more money or you implement a system, whatever,
Hmm.
or you go to a relationship coach and it's like, okay, I've improved my relationship skills or my dating skills. But
Yeah.
this is about changing who you are, and
Hmm.
on like on a nervous system level, on a
Fundamental.
cellular
Yeah.
level, on an identity level
Yeah.
of how you relate to yourself, how you trust yourself, like you were
Mhm.
saying. And one of the things that I see for women is like they become more resilient,
Mhm.
and they know that no matter what challenges life brings to them, that they're like, I got me.
Mhm.
I got me. Like,
Mhm.
I'm solid. I got me. And yes, I'm going to have emotions. Yes, they're going to come up, but I trust that I can move through those
Yeah.
emotions. I trust that I can be resourceful and figure it out. And that is that nervous system capacity like you were talking about, where
Mm.
before things would maybe feel overwhelming or bring
Yeah.
up anxiety or stress, and they couldn't handle those things.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, it really is such a transformational process. And every time I talk about embodiment, I'm like, you can try and put it into words, but
Mhm.
literally
Mhm.
talking about it and hearing about it, like you said, is the awareness. It's the
Yeah.
first step, but it's not the same as doing it.
Mm,
So like
mm-mm.
if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, yes, this is what I want, and this is
Yeah.
the transformation that I want to have, it's not going to happen from just listening.
Mm-mm.
It's not going to happen from learning. It's going to happen through practice,
Yeah.
like you were talking
Yeah.
about. So, for our listeners who
Mm.
want to learn more about you and learn more about Muse,
Yeah.
where can they find you, and what are you offering right now?
Totally. Yeah. Just definitely, however you are, whether it's working with us, whether it's getting into some kind of room, like really give yourself that chance to like feel your body really. And like life will be inviting you into those nudges. Like really start to notice like this feminine path gets to feel easier because life really is communicating with you to initiate us all into this path. So
Hmm.
the nudges will be showing up in your life for sure. You just got to lean into them. And yeah, for us, so everything is at awakenthemuse.com, but we do have a couple things that are really beautiful. One is the quiz. It's a really comprehensive quiz. Basically lets you know where you are in this kind of feminine journey. What are the pieces of your core feminine? We have 8 feminine fundamentals that we work with in Muse, kind of where you are and a bit of how to get started towards that. And that's just awakenthemuse.com/quiz. And then we also have a more of a free mini course around the nervous system, which may be really supportive, just depending on where people are in their journey. And that's just /receive. It's just a really comprehensive training on kind of a little more of what we've spoken about here today of like, how do I actually like expand my nervous system? How do I actually create more capacity? And that goes into a little bit of detail there. And then we're on Instagram as well, Muse Revealed. So
Amazing. Well,
yeah,
we're going to link all of that in the show
beautiful.
notes. And I'm so grateful for you sharing your embodied
Mm,
wisdom. And I'm really excited for all of the women who are really leaning into this work,
yeah.
because my vision is for every woman to know
Mm-hmm.
what it feels like to be in
Mm-hmm.
her body,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
that to me is going to create so much transformation, not only in their lives but rippling out into the world. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really appreciate the work that you
Mm,
and Alexi are doing, and the way that you're showing up to be leading this
mm,
movement. Yeah.
Thanks, beauty. And same
Yeah.
with you. It's such a beautiful co-creation. I think that's the thing I said at the front, just that beautiful, yeah, feminine generosity of just having this mission. Like we just want more women in this
Abundance.
space. Yes,
Abundance.
exactly.
Yeah.
So much of it, and yes, how much the world will literally shift on an access point when women are intuitive and trusting and resilient and open and soft and all of the beautiful combination of, what an integrated and embodied woman is, right? Because it's not just feminine, but it's that real wholeness
Yes.
that she brings. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yay.
Thanks so
Thanks for
much.
having me.
Yeah.